Meow meow. Meow 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 meow. Hello and welcome back to what happens after I put a ban on myself and tell myself no digital art projects during Ren Fair season. Let's focus on costume design and sewing. And then the moment it's over, I launch myself full force into the most pointless but also instantly gratifying art piece I possibly can. So today I am using my abilities as an artist so very responsibly and making art for me by putting 5 of my favorite D&D characters that I've played into fancy suits or clothes, because I am an artist and I can draw anything I want, and that's real power, baby. Obviously we're not doing this in any particular order of favorites, but I will fully admit that the first character in Gaiety is the reason that I wanted to do this in the first place, and also is the character I spent the longest amount of time drawing. That being said, this isn't at all the video I was planning on doing this week. Even if the Ren Fair nearest to me is technically done for the year, I mayhaps have a couple more costume related videos in the works, but besides the fact that I have been scraping the bottom of the barrel for the social energy that it takes for me to be on camera, you might have seen in the last video I was watching the League of Legends World Championship, and whenever that rolls around I get this weird art envy. Not necessarily for the art style, even though it is very beautiful, but mostly for the fact that the characters have so many different skins and variations and designs and outfits, and I'm like, wow, I want that for my characters. So for a debonair in Gaiety, I personally love a suit look that has one thing that is intentionally a little more relaxed and undone. So we have a cloak, we have a suit vest, we have the dress pants, and a lot of elegant gold regalia, but her dress shirt isn't buttoned up all the way and her sleeves are rolled up, bringing what is otherwise a very formal look to be a little bit more carefree, but in like a power move kind of way. And the v-neck with the high collar creates this very cool diamond cutout, which adds to the directional lines created by the vest and the belts and the chains around her waist, all the nice compositional triangles going on that I think just looks nice. One of the primary reasons that I don't tend to draw my characters over and over again, and also the reason I don't have drawings of my characters in a bunch of cool outfits, and also the reason I haven't already started a webcomic or webtoon, is because I have a hard time being consistent between drawings. And I think it's one of the curses of A, not having any formal training, and B, not following through on practicing any of the many incredibly helpful art tutorials and studies that are just freely available on the internet. I really need to get around to doing some art studies, but why do art studies when I can complain about my weaknesses on the internet that could be easily remedied by doing art studies instead? But I actually do enjoy this drawing of Gaiety a lot, even though it's not perfect. I think it suits her vibe very well. It's not one-to-one by any means, but I think she is identifiably Gaiety. I do have 2 critiques though. I wish I had either gone more red or into a cooler purple. Gaiety has these very light purple eyes, and her original character art is centered around purples and blues, and I could have pushed more in that direction, but on the other hand, Gaiety's military uniform is black and red, and I was leaning to her military uniform for color inspiration, but I could have gone more red instead of burgundy. Not that I dislike this color palette at all, I think it looks great, just that there's another character in this lineup that is distinctly pink, and you might be able to guess who it is if you've been around, especially since Art Fight. But you know, her outfit leans very burgundy as well, and it would have been nice, I think, to have a wider array of colors. My second issue with this outfit is that Gaiety canonically dislikes wearing a cape, and I think making her wear a cape or a capelet situation in this alternative outfit is kind of just putting salt in the wound. But hey, speaking of capes or capelets, at what lengths does a capelet turn into a cape anyways? Here on Lady Splitchin's channel, we ask the real questions. But on that note, we're at the end of drawing number 1, Gaiety as wonderful as ever, but this time in formal wear. Even with a few issues that I have with this drawing, I do love how it turned out. The jeweled eye pin on her cloak is amazing. I loved adding the eye motif halo in color dodge after the fact. What more could I want for my beloved very first D&D character and favorite sorcerer cleric? But we can't linger too long because we have 4 more drawings to get to, so let's jump right into drawing number 2, Io, my changeling, the synergist homebrew class. I love Io so dearly. Part of her homebrew class is that she can only take support spells, however, she can turn them all into aura spells instead of like single creature touch or ranged spells. And you would not believe the number of times that I'm playing a character elsewhere and I'm like, wow, if only I had Io's abilities right now, that would be so useful. So here's the thing. Io, their elongated features, their pointed shoulders, relaxed general demeanor. It's so well suited to be in a suit, no pun intended. But lately and in general, I've really been inspired by modernized twists on traditional Chinese clothing, specifically the wide-legged pants and layered waist ties, and I thought the big chunky shape yet flowy fabric would be so appropriate and perfect on Io's body type, and how could I deny myself the opportunity to draw some big swaths of fabric? So Io is not exactly in your more Western traditional three-piece suit style clothing, but she still looks super cool, so I hope y'all will forgive me for that one. Also, speaking of digressions from the original character design and intentions, for the first time ever I present to you short hair Io. I was definitely not sure what I wanted their hair to look like when I went into the drawing, which is why she was bald for the majority of the sketch, but when I started sketching in short hair Io, I knew that this was the correct course of action. And somehow, short hair Io is just significantly more powerful than long hair Io. I don't know what it is about this haircut, but she went from "I've goofed you into getting stuck in the Feywild, oops," to "Mother is not asking, she's telling you to get lost in the Feywild." Io shortening her hair and standing up straight is like my character equivalent to that scene in Naruto where Rock Lee takes off his ankle weights. So there are 5 characters and 5 speed draws, and out of the 5 of them, Io is the only one that I've opted to give silver hardware and jewelry to. All of the rest of them get gold, and I would say it's because Io is the only character I have with a cool toned palette, but that's a lie. I actually have another pretty significantly blue character that I also give gold hardware to. Also, in general character design, I don't think I have many characters that end up going silver instead of gold. Is there psychology behind that? Does that say something about me as a person? If it's bad, don't tell me, because I don't want to know. I don't want to predestine myself like that. But anyways, this drawing was the second shortest of them all, mostly because it had the fewest small details, but also, as per Terrapin Art's advice, I actually used my polyselect tool this time, lassoed the robe / pants situation, and added a dark to light blue gradient over it, and of course it worked really well. And something else that I don't normally do, but in general is kind of a good thing to do, I set my sketch layer to soft light, and it made it look like I had colored line art, and it was so nice and beautiful and perfect that I almost didn't have to do anything in terms of rendering, which meant I got to use all of my energy on rendering their face and hair, which is great. But with one decorative drippy circle added for background flavor, we have our gorgeous Io. Io's just such a fun character design to work with, and this is a nice, simple, but effective outfit. But I do want to point out something that you can't see in the final render unless you're really looking or zoomed in. In the chains over her neck and shoulders, there are a couple of silver beads that I indicated, and I marked them out in sets of 3s because Io loves things that come in 3s. It's a really small detail that I just wanted to point out for us as a treat. So now it is time for the 3rd character in the lineup, our pink strawberry cow, our art fight yearly fan favorite. It's our girl, Calliope Truskruvka. So of course, the point of drawing a bunch of my characters in suits is to give them a very cool, posh, mafia-esque vibe about them. But Calliope is just the most lawful, good, well-intentioned, gentle, sweet cleric to ever cleric. We don't talk about the part where she got possessed by an evil queen for like a few days there. It's just not relevant. So I wanted Calliope in a suit, but I also wanted her to remain very cute and sweet-spirited and comfortable in her outfit. So I still put her in dress pants and a suit vest, but her collared shirt has big puffy sleeves because of course it does, and I also gave her bright, sparkly, fun pink statement earrings and a set of rose-colored glasses because of course she's wearing rose-colored glasses. Me and the heavy-handed symbolisms are the best of friends. But truly, I do love this outfit on Calliope so much. It's very aspiring journalist who hasn't had her dreams crushed by the system yet. Also, I don't want any questions on how she can possibly have horns like this and still have 2 buns on her head. My decision to give her space buns is elite, top tier. Do we still call them space buns, or is that a very 2014 thing for me to do? I do want to know, we have in fact come to the drawing where I was talking about my lament over Inkashti being too burgundy, when obviously Calliope deserves to have the burgundy suit. It isn't exactly the same shade, and that aside, it's a completely different vibe from Inkashti, so it isn't very matchy-matchy, but I actually did go back in and up the saturation and made everything just a teeny tiny bit more pink after I stopped recording the speed draw, because I was looking at the icon thumbnails and the colors were just so similar, and it really bothered me. So it will look just teeny tiny bit different when we get to the reveal, but that was just me bumping around the color adjustment sliders, so I hope you forgive me for leaving that bit out. Also, speaking of leaving bits out, nobody come for me with my inconsistency in drawing Calliope's vitiligo. I don't know what's canon anymore. Anyone who drew her during Art Fight was so precise, so careful, and here I am changing the location of her spots every time I make a new drawing of her, or turn her head, or part her bangs. I don't want to talk about it. And also, it's very bold of you to assume that I know what my own character looks like. And on that note of not knowing what my own character looks like, we're just gonna ignore the fact that I completely forgot to draw her tail in for the majority of the speed draw, and I had to put it in after I thought I was done rendering, which is fine. Honestly, it made it easier to draw the tail on a separate layer and merge it in later, so that means since it made my life easier, it was completely intentional and I didn't actually forget anything. So anyways, here we are at the end of speed draw number 3, Calliope but in a suit she can't afford. I think this piece is super cute. I had a fantastic time drawing it, and also since we're pointing out little details in drawings when we're showing the final renders off, I need you all to know that I painted tiny pink hearts on the end of her hooves. Thank you for coming to my TED Talk. And here we are on our 4th speed draw. Talking about multiple consecutive speed draws is giving me Art Fight flashbacks. Jury's still out on whether or not Art Fight flashbacks are a good thing or a bad thing at this moment in time. My wrist is saying it's a bad thing, but my heart is saying it's a good thing. So this drawing is, of course, Tonic, the most scrungly of my scrunglites. She is a swift stride shifter, which is essentially a diet were-rat, and a blood hunter of the mutagen order, which basically means she drinks potions and does things, which made her a little difficult to picture in a suit, I'm not going to lie. So to ease myself into this drawing, I decided to work on her very distinct facial structure and features first before testing a couple of suit theories out on her. Eventually, I landed on this absolutely unnecessary corset with an unkempt button down and a big tailcoat with sharp shoulders. It parallels a lot with the original outfit choices I made for her: big shoulders, long sweeping coat, and a bound torso. So I think those nods to the original outfit helped her feel more consistent and in character, even though fancy dress party Tonic is the most unlikely Tonic of them all. Speaking of things that are unlikely, I was not expecting to like Tonic's hair up in a bun at all. I think of the 4 characters I drew for this video that have hair, I struggled the most trying to figure out what I should do for Tonic. Tonic is stinky and greasy and horrible, tone indicator affectionate, so I was not expecting business casual hair to work on her. And I love Tonic's character design and features, I just had a really hard time picturing her in, you know, high fashion outfits. And I told myself, you know what, if 1961 animated Cruella de Vil can do it, so can I. Cruella's character design and movements are so scrungle coded, and she is still a fashion icon. Her live action movies, she's played by Glenn Close and Emma Stone. Her hair and costume and green eyeshadow, unforgettable, beloved, worn by many people over the years. In short, fashion scrungles for the win. Oh yeah, and here's a part where I realized I was not recording for the rest of my hair render with a little potion necklace, among other little details, because ooh, I'm such a good content creator. I'm so good at recording all of my work and all of my art process. Anyway, I'm a big fan of these shoes. Something about their shapes are so shapy, believe it or not. And the gold details match well with the other gold in her outfit, like the cuffs on her shirt, the gold trim on the corset, the little bird skull on her lapel. The bird skull does not have specific significance to her character design at all. I just thought that the space on her lapel needed to be filled and thought, wow, what if a little bird skull? That would be so neat right here. And I was right. And that brings us to the final render of Tonic. I think she simultaneously looks very much like and also not at all like Tonic in this render, which I think is very valid for any piece that involves putting Tonic in formal wear, so nicely done, I guess. Of all the characters, this one definitely has my favorite little background decal. The sword in toxic green and the little drips are ooh, mwah, chef's kiss. And now for what actually was the fastest render of them all. Little kobold banana lizard boy Fing. Sometimes drawing Fing is impossible for me, and sometimes drawing Fing is my favorite pastime, and on this day it just seemed seemed to work out really well for whatever reason. Fing was not originally supposed to be in this lineup. I was just gonna have it cut off at tonic, but the idea of putting a Fing in a little fancy white suit pleased the goblin ghoul gremlin in the back of my head that allows me to persist through the day-to-day horrors. So that is what had to be done, and I am glad I did it. We're going a little bit more fantasy, a little bit non-traditional for Fing, so we got the guns out, no sleeves. We have a cool cape with slits down the side, a little pink rose corsage, and a wide-legged pants because the idea of drawing dress pants tailored to digitigrade or similarly appearing legs makes me want to cry. I mean, you can see how I immediately bypassed the option entirely with Calliope by also giving her a slightly wider than usual pant leg. Recently, or not very recently, because responding to comments lately has been very difficult for me energy-wise, and I apologize for that, but recently, someone asked me what my D&D characters would be like if they were all in a single party, and I gave some thought to that. We have Inkashti, the sorcerer cleric, Calliope, the regular cleric, Fing, the paladin, Io, the very support class synergist, and Tonic, the mutagen blood hunter. So it's not the worst party composition in existence. There is a lot of spell casting, but there's also plenty of heals to go around, and also a surprisingly high amount of charisma. Weirdly enough, among the 5 of them, comparing the 5 character sheets, Io has the highest and the lowest stat. She has an 8 in strength, but she also has a 20 in her charisma. Inkashi, Fing, and Calliope all range in the neutral to lawful good alignments, and Io and Tonic, on their best days, are chaotic neutral, so the party swings exactly 2 ways. Tonic and Io get up to mischief and shenanigans and the other 3 have to make up for it, or Fing, Calliope, and Inkashti are constantly falling on swords and sacrificing themselves on behalf of other people, and Tonic and Io have to do weird chaos therapy to get them to have a shred of self-preservation. You know, breaking it down like this, I feel like exposes me more than I want. I really thought I had a lot more character diversity than this, but the fact that it's mostly highly loyal support characters with severe guilt complexes is saying a lot more about me than my decision to deck my characters out in gold instead of silver. So let's not dwell on the psychology behind that too long, and let's instead look at this super cute formal Fing. Wow, I am glad I drew this. He's so bright and shiny compared to my other characters. I love him so dearly. He's genuinely just such an enjoyable character. Paladins, they don't have to be boring, lawful, flawless characters. They can just be kobolds who are trying their best. But what a lovely array of characters, what a bunch of cuties, what a truly selfish art subject. I know this has nothing to do with costumes or campaign book lore or redrawing childhood characters or any of the many series that I was trying to make an effort to finish this year. It was just purely a treat for my mental wellness, and I hope it was also a little bit of a treat for you as well. Let me know if you have a favorite of these 5, because I don't think I have one, but I will say I'm very partial to a short hair Io. And tune in next week for my return to finishing video content for my costume things, maybe? But who knows? Not me.